Imagine signing off on a $100,000 software license. Like, you think it's going to completely revolutionize your company's
Oh,
operations.
the dream scenario, right?
Right. But then, say 6 months later, you find out it legally cannot be used in Australia.
Ouch. Yeah, that happens more than people think.
It really does. And why? Because the vendor's offshore servers are quietly routing all of your customer data through jurisdictions that totally violate the Australian privacy principles. So you didn't just buy a piece of software, you basically bought a massive legal liability.
A very expensive legal liability.
Exactly. So if you are an Australian business owner, or maybe a C-level executive joining us today from our podcast feed or our business page, you are exactly who we want to be talking to right now. Welcome to the C9 Podcast Show. I am your host, Lex, and I am joined by our resident expert, Vera.
Hello, everyone. It's really great to be diving into this with you all today.
It is, because our mission today is, well, it's a critical one. We are looking at this incredible stack of case studies and strategic blueprints that outline the C9 advantage, transforming Australian business through custom mobile engineering.
Which is such a massive topic.
It is. And the entire goal of this deep dive is to basically dismantle this very specific, very dangerous trap. And that's the illusion of the good enough off-the-shelf mobile app.
Oh, the good enough trap gets so many businesses.
Right. Because on paper, a generic templated software solution looks like this massive budget win. You think, great, we saved a ton of money. But when you look at the actual operational mechanics of it, you start to see the bleeding.
Yeah, the hidden costs just start piling up.
Exactly. You're bleeding staff hours on manual workarounds, you're losing visibility across your supply chain, and honestly, you are capping your own growth because you are forcing your unique business to fit inside someone else's generic box.
And that tension right there, that perceived upfront savings versus the hidden long-term costs, that's the core of what we're unpacking today. We want to give you, the listener, a proven decision framework.
A real actionable framework.
Right. By the end of this conversation, the goal is for you to understand the exact mechanics of turning your mobile tech stack from this endless, frustrating IT expense into a tangible, scalable asset, one that actually drives revenue.
So let's start with the geographic reality, because our sources highlight that these off-the-shelf hidden costs are uniquely dangerous in the Australian market.
Oh, absolutely. It's a completely different landscape.
Right. It isn't just about software glitches. It is about an operating environment that global templates usually just, well, ignore.
Yeah, and that is a blind spot for most global software as a service or SaaS products. Australia has incredibly strict data sovereignty requirements under the APPs.
The Australian privacy principles?
Exactly. So if you buy a templated mobile app from, say, an overseas vendor, you rarely have any control over where that data rests.
Which is terrifying if you think about it.
It is, because if that vendor uses some third-party server in a country with much weaker privacy laws and there's a breach, well, the Australian regulator holds you responsible, not the offshore vendor, you.
Okay, but let me push back a bit here, because I can hear an executive listening to this right now saying, oh, okay, sure, but a lot of global platforms have Australian servers now, or at least they claim to, and they all say they have open APIs to integrate with whatever local systems we use.
I mean, yeah, they definitely claim that. But let's look at how an API, an application programming interface, actually behaves in the wild.
Right, theory versus reality.
Exactly. Australian businesses run on local mainstays.
Right.
Like Xero for accounting or MYOB for payroll. So when an offshore app says they integrate, it usually means they built this generic bridge like 5 years ago.
And software changes fast.
Exactly. So what happens when Xero updates its protocol? Or when you need to map really complex custom tax codes that are specific to an Australian state?
The bridge breaks.
The generic bridge breaks completely.
Yeah.
And suddenly your staff is out there downloading CSV files from the mobile app and manually uploading them into Xero every Friday afternoon.
Oh man, the Friday afternoon CSV upload. Soul-crushing.
It really is. So that quick fix app now requires constant, expensive manual intervention. Whereas custom engineering, like the approach C9 takes, ensures those integrations are native to your specific ecosystem right from day one.
So buying off-the-shelf software to run a complex Australian business is, it's a bit like buying an off-the-shelf transmission for a custom race car.
Oh, I like that.
Right, like it might physically bolt into the chassis, but the minute you put real torque through it, the minute you hit end of financial year processing, or you get a massive supply chain spike, it is just going to shatter and you're left stranded on the track.
That is a perfect analogy. It just can't handle the load.
But wait, let's address the elephant in the room here, the budget.
Ah, yes, the dreaded budget question.
Because the fear of a custom development project turning into this financial black hole is very real for a lot of companies. Doesn't custom code basically mean I'm entirely on the hook for massive maintenance costs every single time Apple or Google decides to update their operating systems?
Well, look, it's a valid fear, but it fundamentally misunderstands how modern custom architecture works when it's governed correctly. You have to weigh this concept of predictable maintenance against uncontrollable technical debt.
Okay, break that down for me. Uncontrollable technical debt.
Yeah. So when you rent an off-the-shelf platform, the vendor can hike your subscription fees by like 30% overnight.
Right, you're completely at their mercy.
Totally. They can deprecate features that your team actively relies on, and when your business eventually outgrows their generic template, you have to rip the entire system out by the roots and start all over again.
Which costs a fortune in downtime alone.
Exactly. But with a properly architected custom build, you actually own the intellectual property. You control the roadmap. You are building equity in your own operational infrastructure, rather than just paying rent for a system you ultimately have absolutely no control over.
Building equity, that is a really crucial mindset shift. So let's look at what that actually looks like in the real world, especially when generic software simply cannot handle the sheer scale of an industry.
Yeah, let's get into the case studies.
Our sources outline this massive case study in the agricultural sector. We're talking about Avocados Australia and their Avo Data project.
Right, so Avocados Australia is the peak industry body for a massive horticultural sector. And their operational bottleneck is practically a textbook example of legacy system failure.
Just completely bogged down.
Oh, entirely. They were trying to manage a national supply chain using siloed data sets.
Wait, like completely disconnected?
Yes. We are talking about regional farmers, transport logistics, and retail distributors, all basically operating in a vacuum, trying to forecast national supply dynamics based on manual reporting and fragmented spreadsheets.
Oh, wow. So they're essentially making strategic decisions while flying blind.
Exactly. The entire industry was flying blind.
So the sources mention that C9 tackled this with a pretty serious technical intervention. They're talking over 4,000 development hours. They deployed a .NET Core web application, Azure Cloud Hosting, and Xamarin cross-platform mobile capabilities.
This is a massive overhaul.
But I want to get past the acronyms for a second. What is the actual mechanism here? Like, how does an app solve a fragmented supply chain?
Okay, so the mechanism is data consolidation,
Yeah.
specifically through advanced ETL processes. This stands for extract, transform, and load.
Extract, transform, load. Got it.
So imagine you have a farmer up in Queensland recording yields in some old Excel template, and then a transport company in New South Wales is using a basic text export. Meanwhile, a retailer is using a modern API.
Sounds like a nightmare to combine.
It is. But ETL is the machinery that catches all these different dialects, strips them down, translates them into one unified language, and then loads them into a central Azure cloud database.
Ah, okay. So it acts like a universal translator for incompatible business data.
That is a great way to put it, a universal translator. And once all that data speaks the exact same language, the mobile app part of it becomes incredibly powerful.
Right. Because it actually has good data to work with.
Exactly. And this is where Xamarin comes into play. Xamarin is a framework that allows developers to write the core logic of the app once in a single code base, and then compile it natively for both Apple iOS and Android devices.
Hold on, let me stop you there, because a lot of executives hear cross-platform, and they immediately think clunky web app stuffed inside a mobile wrapper.
Yeah, that old stereotype.
Right. They think it's going to be super slow and unresponsive for the user out in the field.
And look, 5 or 10 years ago, they would have been 100% right. But Xamarin actually compiles down to native performance.
Really? So it feels like a regular app.
Completely. The user gets the smooth, responsive experience of a native app. But the business only has to maintain one central code base.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right. So when a new feature is needed, say a new real-time reporting dashboard for those farmers, the developers just build it once. They aren't billing you to build it in Swift for Apple and then turning around and billing you again to build it in Kotlin for Android.
Which drastically reduces that ongoing maintenance cost I was worried about earlier.
Exactly. It solves the maintenance fear.
Which really changes the context of those 4,000 development hours, doesn't it? Because if I am an executive reading this case study, my initial reflex is to look at 4,000 hours and just wince at the upfront costs.
Oh, definitely. It's a big number.
But when you understand the mechanism, when you see that they automated hundreds of hours of manual reporting and gave an entire national industry real-time visibility, it reframes the cost entirely. That isn't a sunk expense. That is a proprietary operational edge. It's a moat.
A digital moat, yes.
Because if you have real-time unified data through a custom portal and your competitors are still, emailing spreadsheets back and forth, they just cannot compete with your speed. You have built an asset they cannot simply buy off a shelf.
And the COO of Avocados Australia noted that very thing in their takeaway from the project. Moving to that unified, mobile-enabled data hub dramatically cut manual effort. It fundamentally changed how the industry operates.
That's incredible.
But here's the thing. The power of this custom architecture isn't just limited to wrangling static data or, tracking produce. If we look at the next set of sources, we see how this applies to human logistics.
Right. Because data is static, but humans are just chaotic.
Very chaotic.
So let's look at the education sector with One School Global. This is a massive educational network operating across multiple Australian campuses, even with international reach. And their primary operational headache was moving thousands of students every single day.
Right, manual bus scheduling. Which, honestly, it sounds pretty mundane until you realize the sheer scale of the liability and the logistics involved.
The liability must be huge.
It is. Because without real-time visibility, you just have disconnected communication. If a bus breaks down or hits severe traffic, manual systems mean the driver's trying to call the school, the administrators are scrambling to find paper manifests, and parents are just left in the dark waiting at a bus stop.
Panicking, probably. So how does a custom mobile engineering project actually solve that without just creating, more administrative screens for people to stare at?
Right, by creating a dynamic ecosystem, one where the components talk to each other without human intervention. So C9 engineered a three-part transportation management system here.
Okay, 3 parts. What are they?
You have a web console for the school administrators, you have an in-vehicle tablet for the drivers, and you have a cross-platform Xamarin mobile app for the parents.
Wow. Okay.
So let's trace a real-world scenario. A student boards the bus. The driver's tablet registers their attendance and their seat allocation. Then the bus hits unexpected roadworks and is delayed by, say, 20 minutes.
Okay, so the driver has to pull over and call the school.
No. The driver doesn't have to call anyone.
Oh, really?
The tablet's GPS feeds directly into the central system. The web console updates the ETA automatically for the admins, and the parent's mobile app instantly receives a push notification adjusting the arrival time.
That is a phenomenal example, because it brings up an analogy I want to test on you.
Let's hear it.
So a truly effective custom app is kind of like an iceberg.
An iceberg.
Yeah. The mobile app on the parent's phone, that's just the tip that the user sees above the water. It's clean, it's simple. But the massive, robust backend architecture, the cloud databases, the APIs, the web consoles, that's the massive operational engine underneath the surface that actually keeps the business afloat.
That is incredibly accurate. The parent only sees that sleek interface on their phone. They don't see the complex routing algorithms and attendance databases firing off in the background. But the result is it eradicates 50 frantic phone calls to the school's front desk. It creates profound safety and parental reassurance.
But let me ask the critical question for the listener here. With One School Global, an executive won't look at that and say, okay, they built a bus tracker. I can just go buy a fleet management tracker off the shelf.
Right. I hear that all the time.
So how does an executive actually spot the difference between buying a feature and investing in an operational asset?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
So a feature solves a single, isolated problem in a vacuum. A generic fleet tracker puts a dot on a map. That is a feature.
Okay.
But it doesn't talk to the student attendance database. And it doesn't integrate with the parent communication portal. An operational asset, on the other hand, permanently changes the cost, the safety, and the efficiency of a transaction across the entire business.
Oh, I see.
The custom system didn't just track the bus. It removed the manual labor attendance, it automated parent communications, and it provided structural data to optimize future routes. It literally elevated their service delivery nationwide.
And we see that exact same ecosystem impact in the health sector case study too, right? Healthy Tasmania and their Inmin Connect project.
Yes. Another great example.
They were managing community health and fitness programs across all these different council jurisdictions, trying to coordinate instructors, track attendance, and prove the return on investment to local government, all using manual clipboards, which is just a massive bottleneck.
A huge bottleneck. So C9 approached that by building a comprehensive SaaS platform. They engineered a Xamarin mobile app that's used by both the fitness instructors and the participants. And it took over 800 development hours.
Oh, no more clipboards.
Exactly. Instead of passing around a clipboard with messy handwriting, participants simply scan a QR code on their phone to log their attendance. And that data feeds instantly back into the central system.
Which means when Healthy Tasmania has to sit down with a local city council to, justify their funding for the next quarter, they aren't guessing.
No guessing at all.
They aren't manually tallying up paper sheets. They have real-time, hard data showing exactly how many community members attended, at what specific locations, and how the program is growing.
And because it's custom, it scales seamlessly across new partnerships and councils. That is the true value of custom architecture. It scales precisely the way your specific business needs it to scale.
So we've explored the mechanics of this in agriculture, education, and health. The why and the how are pretty clear. But now, let's pivot to the actionable playbook.
Let's do it.
Because how does the listener actually replicate this success? The sources don't just give us case studies, they outline an executive blueprint. And it's based on 5 specific patterns of success observed across these major projects.
Yeah, and the first pattern is arguably the most important. It's where most failed software projects go wrong right out of the gate.
What's that?
Business first requirements discovery.
Okay, meaning what exactly?
Meaning before any developer even touches a keyboard, there must be a granular forensic analysis of your operational pain points. If an agency wants to start coding in week 1 without deeply understanding your strategic goals, you are going to end up with a very expensive piece of software that solves the wrong problem entirely.
Right, it's like diagnosing the patient before prescribing the surgery.
Exactly.
So what are the other patterns?
Well, there's the strategic choice of cross-platform technology like Xamarin to control those long-term maintenance costs.
Yeah.
Then there's seamless back-end integration to ensure those data silos are permanently destroyed.
Got it.
Then transparent governance, meaning you have absolute clarity on project scope, stage delivery, and IP ownership. And finally, designing for maintainability. The architecture must be built to handle strict Australian compliance and future scale right from day 1, not just bolted on as an afterthought.
Okay, so those are the high-level patterns, but the sources also provide an incredibly practical tool for the listener here. They call it the 8 questions framework.
Yes, I love this framework.
These are the crucial questions every Australian executive must ask a potential mobile app developer before signing a contract.
They essentially function as a stress test for any potential tech partner. For example, one of the non-negotiable questions is, who owns the source code at handover, and is this explicit in the contract?
Ooh, that's a big one.
Huge, because if the agency retains ownership of the code, you do not own an asset. You are just a hostage to their ecosystem.
I want to zero in on 2 of these questions specifically because I view them as the ultimate executive BS detectors when you're out there interviewing developers.
Okay, what's your first BS detector?
The first is, what is your approach to technical debt and maintenance in 3 to 5 years?
Oh, that is a fantastic question.
Right. If an agency stumbles on that question or just waves it away like it's nothing run, because it means their entire business model is to launch the app, cash the check, and just abandon you the second the operating systems update.
So true. And what's your second vital question?
How do you manage scope changes, and what is your formal change request process?
Ah, yes. The dreaded scope creep.
Exactly. We all know that once a build starts, the business is going to realize they need an extra feature or some requirement will shift. If the developer doesn't have a rigid, transparent process for pricing and integrating those changes, your budget is going to completely evaporate.
Those are excellent filters. Really strong. I would also add the integration question we touched on earlier. What specific experience do you have with Australian software ecosystems?
Yes. That one is crucial.
You need them to prove they understand the APPs. You need them to demonstrate they have successfully integrated with Xero, MYOB, or local payment gateways before.
That question immediately filters out the mismatched offshore agencies. Because if they don't know the intricacies of local privacy laws or how to hook into Australian payroll software, they are going to be learning on your dime.
Precisely. And the final question from the framework is just brilliant in its simplicity. Can you share a project that faced unexpected challenges and explain how you resolved it?
Because things always go wrong.
Always. Every major software build will face a hurdle at some point. An agency that claims they have never had a project go off track is just lying to you. Honesty in how they handle adversity tells you everything you need to know about their integrity as a long-term partner.
So to synthesize all of this for the listener today, custom mobile app development is not just an IT line item.
Definitely not.
When it is executed with a deep forensic understanding of your business and backed by robust engineering like we've discussed today, it transforms from a basic expense into an enduring competitive advantage. It gives your team efficiency, it gives your leadership actionable insight, and it gives your company unlimited scalability.
If your organization is currently fighting against legacy systems, or if your staff are bogged down by manual workarounds, or even if your digital initiatives have stalled because off-the-shelf software just isn't fitting your reality,
Right.
the time to evaluate your architecture is right now.
Don't wait.
Don't wait. Because the cost of inaction, the lost hours, the missed insights, it just continues to compound every single month.
Which brings us to our call to action for you today. And it's time to stop letting that cost of inaction drain your resources. We want you to visit www.manc9.com/a.o.
That's the letter C, the number 9.com.o.
Connect with C9 Australia's leading custom software, apps integration, and database developer company. They offer a completely no-obligation 30-minute strategic mobile app architecture review.
And honestly, in just half an hour, you can lay out your unique operational bottlenecks, and their experts will map out a realistic, ROI-focused path forward so you can build an asset you actually own.
It really is a phenomenal starting point to ensure that your next tech investment genuinely serves your long-term business goals.
Absolutely.
So before we wrap up, just a quick reminder, please click that follow button on the C9 podcast show. If you found this deep dive valuable, share it with your colleagues, your board, or fellow executives who are tired of fighting with generic software and could really benefit from understanding these operational mechanics.
We covered some incredible ground today, from the nuances of data consolidation to the logistics of human movement and the strategic framework to actually make it all happen.
We certainly did.
Yeah.
And to leave you with something to chew on as you go about your day, I want you to consider this. Look at your own business operations tomorrow morning, walk the floor, or look at your manager's weekly reports. What is the one manual sticky tape workaround your team is currently using just to keep things running?
Every business has one.
They really do. And that workaround is silently draining your company's competitive edge. So now ask yourself, what happens to your market share if your biggest competitor automates that exact process before you do?